Oh my Lord, I think we did it. Welcome to the RecPoker Podcast Chats edition. It's Jim Reed and I'm filling in for friendly Steve Fredlin today, but we are joined by the panel as always. I'd like to thank Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino, Learn Pro Poker, and Website AMP for making this happen. We're going to get down to business with Chris Wallace in just a minute, but first I want to welcome the panel. Again, I'm Jim Reed, Bluffsterini in the home games and at Jim in the forums. Chris or Andrew, take us off.
I'm Andrew Feist. I'm dealer 412 in the home game, at Andrew on the forums. And John Somsky is always one step ahead.
And I'm Chris Jones. I'm 5x5 on both Twitter and PokerStars. Just reminding you that sometimes you got to fold top pair.
I don't tell people that.
And I'm Rob Washam, and I'm Radman50 on PokerStars and Twitter. And in the interest of getting good at your mental game, you should let go and make yourself empty and quiet, clear and calm. That's a saying from Zen master Ying An.
And I'm John Somsky, Poker Geek MN everywhere. And I have a quote from Al Alvarez. He says, serious poker is no more about gambling than rock climbing is about taking risks.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Love that. Bringing some knowledge today. Just before we get into the interview, a couple things I just wanted to let everybody know about. The Steelers are doing very well this year, and also we're changing the schedule over at rec.poker a little bit, so pay close attention to the events calendar. We're going to be making some changes just to streamline it, get more community events happening, and so take a peek at that events calendar. Andrew's got the Green Bay Packers up as well. What a friendly crew. So Chris Fox Wallace, longtime friend of the show, a local poker great and beyond. We're excited to have him back. We're talking about the Short Stack Ninja, among some other irons in the fire. And Rob has picked Short Stack Ninja to be the next book that we're going to be looking at in the book study. So Chris, and some of our guys already are way ahead of us. I love to see that.
I'm with you.
Yeah, nice. Nice. See, recreational poker players doesn't mean we don't take it seriously. So, Chris, why don't you tell us just a little bit about what made you decide to bring this book to the fore? What was it about this subject in particular, and why everyone should go out and buy it?
I love to quantify things. I spent part of the day figuring out if Zimmer was right in going for it on 4th and 1 instead of kicking the field goal. I have a spreadsheet full of information about it. So that's kind of what I do. And I've done some of that with all kinds of weird things like poker psychology and other things, but really the easiest thing to quantify in poker is short stack play. That's math we can handle and wrap our heads around. I can solve most of it with an equity calculator and a spreadsheet. So I did that, I don't know, 15 years or more ago with 20 big blinds or less, came up with Nash solutions to most of that stuff and put that information out on the internet. And I know that I'm not the only person who had that information. It wasn't all that hard to figure out, but I do know that when the Russian short stack farms started up in Russia and they took over full tilt and there were short stackers everywhere and it was a disaster. I ruined my own games because I saw a picture from the inside of one of those short stack farms, 60 computers in a big warehouse, and my charts were up on the wall next to the computers. And so sorry about that.
So you're the one we all have to blame for that.
Somsky has the 10 big blind push fold chart there, the laminated version we sent out. Yep. And then I put out pushfoldcharts.com, and then that became a huge thing. And Max Silver told me on TV that it was an inspiration for him building Snapshove. So I've caused all kinds of trouble now. Now everybody's using Snapshove, and I had all these notes in my phone. Every time I have a bad night at the poker table, I start making notes to write another book or looking for jobs or trying to figure out something because I'm so mad at poker. So I just sit there and grind it out and do things on my phone to figure out what I'm going to do next. And in those moments when I think, okay, I'm terrible at poker and I'm never going to win at this again. And I've had enough of those over the years that I've had most of a book put together. So when COVID came around and the poker rooms were closed, I decided to put this book together. So I'm doing a ton of writing. I got a couple editing certificates and some knowledge, and I'm not just a guy who writes now. I've kind of acquired real skills, and then put the book together. And it didn't take long because I had almost everything saved in various Google Docs, and these weapons that I'd picked up over the years and learned how to calculate these things from stack to pot ratios and figure out which things worked. I've been teaching them to students forever. So it was time to just put the book out. And I've learned a lot about self-publishing, worked with a couple of self-publishing companies recently, helping them tune up their Amazon listings and things. And so it was really just, I have to do this thing. It's the right time for it.
And we've got Chris Jones is involved in the publishing industry, and we were actually just Rob was leading our previous book study with Matt Matros's game plan, and he talks about some short stack stuff in there. And I wonder if when you're putting this together, a lot of it is going to be range based in how you approach these spots pre-flop. Talk a little bit about some of the other ways that you can exploit people with short stacks, or when you have a short stack yourself or something like that.
Well, everything should be range based, right?
Yes.
We're never playing in the dark. Even if you're just playing GTO solutions and using a solver, you still are looking at potential ranges because not everybody is that good. So what I tried to do was put everything into pretty simple terms. If you have this many big blinds, these are the weapons you use, and these are when you use them. And that's when I talk about ranges. You don't re-steal against the tight under the gun razor and the John Deere hat who's 106 years old and has a cup of coffee in front of him, because he's never going to fold, right? But if it's a 22-year-old Swedish kid who's on the button with a 3-bet hoodie on, then you just re-steal just with any two and you got 14 big blinds. He doesn't have anything. So ranges still matter, but those knowing which weapons you have to use that's what I thought was really the value in the book.
Yeah, I love that. I'm always thinking about different plays as kind of candidates that are available, like tools in the toolbox that you can choose
really
different
like the book,
tools.
if that's how you think.
Oh yeah, I haven't even cracked it. I've given myself until our first session to really get into it, but that is the way. And like, not every tool can be used in every circumstance, right? You wouldn't use a screwdriver when a hammer was more appropriate. So you don't bluff 3-bet when just a linear value 3-bet is a better pick there. So I can't wait. I can't wait to get into it. Rob, did you want to jump in?
Certainly don't bluff 3-bet when you have 20 big blinds.
Right.
You just light money on fire. And that's one of the things in the book is like in that zone, you just can't use that play.
Yeah, I think one thing we found that was kind of cool about it is that we finished with the game plan with Matt Matros, and the last session that we did was short stack. And his short stack was 0 to 25 big blinds, you shove or fold, period. That's pretty much it, the whole thing. And then you take yours, the short stack ninja, and you get into you break it down into, like, that's 4 different zones there between 0 to 25 or 30 big blinds. So I think it'll take that and take us to the next level, which is what I'm excited about doing with this book.
Yeah, that leaves you awful tight at 22 big blinds, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Not very many hands you can shove in that range.
Well, he's got a pretty wide range on there. Keep in mind that the object of that book was to give a recreational or a casual player the tools to compete against more accomplished poker players in a bigger size tournament.
So he's trying to create a simple GTO system kind of thing where.
Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've seen, I know Sklansky did that once. He put out kind of here's a way you can play poker if you don't know anything about poker in a tournament.
Yeah, and we kind of use that as example. John Somsky and I talk about that a little bit in the book study about what Sklansky did. So
that'll help Somsky's game for sure.
Well, what couldn't help my game? I mean, other than not playing at all, right? Anything could help it. But it was kind of interesting in that it wasn't as bad as Sklansky's approach. Not that Sklansky's approach was bad, but this fits more into actually playing good poker. It's like baby steps towards playing good poker. So when you start to actually learn more things that go into it, you can expand the repertoire a little bit more easily than, you know, Sklansky's shove with aces, queens, or kings, or, you know, when he modified that a little bit more.
It's going to be a great book study book because my writing mentors, I have a couple of friends who are best-selling authors, and they just always stress to be concise, say it in less words, right? So I may even go too far with that at times in some of my writing, but better to err on that side than be too wordy. And so the book only ended up at 108 pages, and I covered a lot, but I didn't expand on it very much. I didn't expand on a lot of things. I honestly just got to the point where I didn't want to look at it anymore and didn't want to add anything to it and screw it up. I thought this was really good. I'll put it out now. But that leaves a lot to study, a lot to talk about, because I haven't laid it all out there for you. You can look at these zones and why I like them, why I like the weapons that I do, and spend hours talking about them and expanding on them, because I didn't do that much of that.
So you're saying you left plenty of room for us to screw it up?
Absolutely.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, he's not making the same mistake you made back in the day. Well, no, I am excited about that. And I think one of the things that's great about it is it takes sort of like a refined look at some of those different ranges, like we were talking about, a more nuanced approach to that. And so is there one thing looking at poker today, because I know you still get a chance to play and you still love the game, is there a something that is there something that recreational players who are in that 20 to 25 big blind range, is there something that you feel like they consistently do wrong, or something that they could look to immediately change their game or improve their play?
I think the 0 to 5 big blinds chapter is going to change the way everybody plays that range. That is where people make huge mistakes. Most people know about push fold, and most people have seen a push fold chart. Somsky has one on his desk. Most people know about re-steals these days, and I've made videos about re-steals for 5 different poker training sites, including the Learn WPT site, which, who knows, 500,000 people might have seen those. And I've actually been at tables with people who talk about my re-steal podcasts from Poker X Factor from 12 years ago, including one who at Canterbury, in like one of the major events, there was a kid 3 to my left re-stealing, and it was really irritating me. And I pointed it out to the table a couple times, just that he was shipping really wide, because I wanted somebody to call him, because whether they double him up or bust him, he's out of the re-steal zone and he's not bothering me anymore. So the next night when I get home, there's a message for me on the Pocket Fives forums that says, "Hey, I'm the kid who was re-stealing on you. I just wanted to let you know that I knew what you were doing. I wasn't mad at you. And I was listening to your re-steal podcasts while I was doing it." And I saw him the next day. We both bagged for day 2. And I saw him the next day, and he pulled out his iPod and showed me a whole list of my re-steal podcasts that he was listening to while I was doing it. So that information is out there. I talk a little bit about it in ways other people haven't maybe, and I try to present it very clearly, but that information is out there. And even the 20 to 30 big blind range, a lot of people know that you can't 3-bet fold below 25 big blinds. They know some of those kinds of things. But the 0 to 5 big blinds range, most people are playing terribly. Most people just wait for a hand and pile it in. That's the easy default way to play that range, and it's absolutely the wrong way to play that range. It's almost the opposite of the right way to play that range. So I think that's the one that's really going to catch people's attention, and it makes poker a lot more interesting when you get down to 4 big blinds, because you're not just like, oh great, now I'm just going to push or go home, and you're irritated. Now, with the way that I've talked about how to play that range and the weapons that are available there, you're paying constant attention to the table. You're looking at everyone around you. What are the stacks to my left going to do? How can I set up this thing or that thing? And that's going to change things a lot.
I can't wait. I can't wait to get into it. And I know you've talked about how dense the book itself is, and we're going to put it through our book study. Are there other places out there that are going through it as well, that people can get a little more explanation or unpack it in a little more detail?
There are a couple of other book study groups looking at it. I don't know if they're posting anything publicly, really.
Cool. Well, if we can put some links up in the show notes or something, if
anything comes, if those groups post anything publicly, I will do that. I just did a talk about the book to the Ricardo's study group here in Las Vegas. And I know there's another like a meetup group in Minnesota doing it as well. So I'll tell those guys that I've done this, and maybe they'll be interested in coming and listening to the podcast.
Sweet.
And then I really expanded on a lot of these ideas in the Red Chip Poker Core 2.0 course that I did, where I talk about all the zones, including up to 200 big blinds in that series of videos. And that's 22 videos, so I had a lot of time, and Red Chip gave me real freedom to do kind of whatever I want. So that expands on a lot of the ideas in different ways. So people who don't learn well from reading, and there are lots of those people out there, can learn it that way.
Well, we love Red Chip here, so I hope people go and check that out if they're looking for a more robust exploration of it. Chris?
Red Chip did a great job. They just called me and said, what do you want to do? We want tournament training for Core 2.0. What do you think you want to do? And I said, here's what I've always wanted to do. I want to create a simulated tournament from the first hand to winning it. And I want to use that to teach all the different stack sizes and how to play. I want to do opponent profiling, where all the way through you're watching me play a tournament, and I'm playing this hand against Old Man Coffee, so he has this range. I'm playing this hand against a backpack, so he has this range. And that's what I want to do. I want to create a visual that looks like an online poker tournament, and I want it to be a live poker tournament structure, and I want to tell people, and they said, great, we'll pay you to do that. So they kind of let me do exactly what I've been wanting to do for a long time. And it turned out great, and I've never gotten such positive feedback. I don't make any more money if somebody watches it now, so I don't have any reason to promote it. But the fact is the feedback has been amazing compared to all the other training stuff that I've been a part of.
I was gonna jump in and ask a little bit about. I'm waiting for the book to arrive, so I haven't started it yet. But I have. I'm wondering if it covers multi-way spots, and I'm asking this because I hear from a lot of our members and people sort of like, yeah, I know about push fold charts. I know like what I do when whatever, I'm in this spot and I have ace jack suited, but what do I do when somebody jumps in the middle of this and like it sort of screws up everything I've been planning? And I'm wondering if you talk about multi-way spots, or if you have any advice for people when they're short stacked and they're facing multi-way spots, whether that's an open and a call or an open and a shove, and then like we've got a marginal hand that we're sort of like, what do I do here? Like what kind of thoughts do you have for that kind of situation?
I'm hoping the book teaches people how to think about those kinds of situations. The 0 to 5 big blinds section, which is the beginning, talks a lot about multi-way. It's almost all about multi-way because that's where the money is in that zone, right? You want like a raise and 2 callers, so you can re-raise, and the original raiser can blow the callers out, and you can be heads up getting 4 to 1 on your money, that kind of situation. Or there's 3 limps and you can raise because that there's a re-steal stack behind you, so you ship in your 4 big blinds and he re-steals because he knows that's smart, that implied collusion thing that goes on, and blows everybody out. So that the book starts off talking about mostly multi-way situations and how to create those. And one of the things that I would expand on if I wanted to do kind of an expanded version would be to take those concepts and apply them more clearly, do more hand examples and situations in the bigger stacks, right? In the push fold zone, you have lots of options. If there's like a couple limpers and you can shove 8 big blinds and maybe steal. You can also use the same concept if there's like a raise and 2 callers and you can shove 9 big blinds instead of 4 if you've got the right hand in the right situation, so that the concept applies everywhere. They don't cover a lot of multi-way situations in the bigger stack sizes, but I'm hoping that people apply those same concepts from the first chapter to those later situations. Like if you have a re-steal stack and there's a raise from the cutoff and a call on the button, that's a better re-steal spot than it was if the button didn't call. It just gets better. And so that understanding the stack to pot ratio and where you have the different weapons based on what's in the pot is really important. And I think I could have written a lot more about that whole concept and how to use it in every stack size.
That's great. We talk all the time about sort of learning about poker, not about learning spots, really just kind of thinking about the reasons why certain things are profitable or not profitable, and how that really arms you in these other circumstances where, we're not solving that spot, but now the factors to be thinking about when you're in that position. So I think that's really valuable.
Absolutely. That's the key, because there's too many spots. You can't memorize all of them.
Right. And that wouldn't be fun. We don't like poker because it's the thing you get to memorize a bunch of solutions to. We like playing poker, right? And that's about making good decisions in the moment, better decisions than your opponents, giving them tough decisions. So yeah,
That's right.
I love
you guys
that.
like poker.
That's right. Recreational players, we still enjoy the game.
I'm jealous.
You said that like you don't enjoy poker, Chris.
Oh, I think I will like it when it comes back and I can safely play again. But it certainly doesn't. Doing it for a living and having to win and having to pay the bills certainly has taken some of the fun out of the game for me. I really missed walking into the World Series this year, hearing the music and the whole thing. I mean, and seeing all my friends. That's Poker Family Reunion every year. Meet me at the hooker bar for a beer, like night after night. People I haven't seen in a year. I missed some of that stuff when I was away from it for a while. But, a year, 2, 3 years ago, I was pretty tired of playing poker for a living and looking for other things to do. It's definitely not the same. And so I think I'm ready to do something else and become a recreational player at some time soon. And then I think I'll really enjoy it. I think it'll be really fun. When I can go to the poker table and have 3 beers and not care, right? It'd be fun. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, you've had a lot of, you've got your hands in a lot of different things in the last few years. The iNinja Poker, the Next Level Poker. You're doing a lot of training, a lot of all that sort of thing. Now, during this whole COVID thing, how does your life look today? I mean, what are you doing? You just published a book, obviously, but what kinds of activities are you concentrating on now that you can't go and play that live poker?
I'm playing some online. We have WSOP.com here.
Yeah.
I don't trust a lot of the other options for playing poker right now. I think there's some things are going to go sideways there. And I'm writing a ton. I'm doing some editing. I'm working, I just edited a book for a couple of best-selling authors that they wrote together that'll come out soon, and that'll be good for my editing resume. I'm doing some freelance writing. I'm actually working on those of you who are friends with me on Facebook are probably tired of hearing about politics, but I write about politics quite a lot. And I decided to get serious about that. So I'm creating a website where I do like a political blog. I'm working with a friend from Minnesota on a comedy podcast. I've always got things in the fire. The comedy podcast has been a lot of fun so far. We'll see if that actually goes anywhere.
Well, you got to pump it here. How do people follow the comedy podcast? Tell us.
We don't know yet. I should have bought a domain this morning. But you can. Chris Maddock is my friend. I've known Chris for 25 years, and he was like the City Pages Comedian of the Year a few years ago or something, and he's done a ton of stuff. And he just came out with an album called Country Music Legend, which is a comedy album, and it went to like number 5 on the iTunes comedy chart, and it's really good. And he's the guy that I'm doing it with. So if you follow either of us on Twitter or Facebook, you'll hear about it as soon as we get around to making it happen.
Nice. I can't wait. I love stand-up comedy. I've always been a big stand-up comedy fan, and the art of it is something that always interests me. It's a technical field. Like there's a lot of science to it as well, but like it's that one of those mixes of art and science where you have to get a lot of fundamentals right, and you got to play the room. I imagine your experience as a poker player will help with that.
I hope so. Luckily, just doing the podcast, I don't have to interact with an audience. I've always thought stand-up would be really fun, but I know that you bomb a lot before you get any good at it. That sounds like a rough start. But I do have a number of friends in stand-up comedy, and they do things like filming the audience while they're doing these things. And when I hear about what goes into like a serious 1-hour HBO comedy special or a Netflix special, holy cow. They spend a year on the road and they're watching film every night like a football team to see how people responded. And they're planning out their jokes for the next day. I'll make this change in this, and then I'll A/B the two, and I'll see how people react. And they do that for a year to get this set together. It's amazing. And then sometimes they record it 4 times and pick the best one. It's a ton of work. I don't know if I'm ready for that.
Yeah, it's a hard way to make an easy living, right? It's just like poker. People look at it and like, oh, how much fun that would be, and like, okay, do it for a couple of years, and then we'll talk.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead.
That's kind of what I've always done too. Just pick the hardest way to make a living, and then
Right.
that's what I do.
Well, you might have continued that trend with publishing. You said you'd sort of learned a couple lessons about publishing. Or is there anything that you can share with the group about either the process of writing the book or bringing it to market, or how much longer editing takes than you thought it would, that kind of stuff?
Editing was not a big problem. I write pretty clean copy because I wrote for magazines for so long that I would send my copy into the magazine, and then when the magazine came out, I would see how my editor changed it and compare it to what I sent in. And by after 5 or 6 years of that, I would send them stuff they just printed. And now they love me. Now when I write for Card Player Lifestyle with Robbie Straczynski, and when I send him stuff, he changes like a few words here and there, but otherwise it goes to print. So the editing wasn't hard, and I let it sit for like 2 weeks so that I could go edit it with a fresh brain, and that wasn't a big deal. I had a couple of friends from Minnesota who were part of a poker home game that my fiance plays, that are both sharp writers and good poker players, who agreed to do kind of beta read for me and sent some suggestions. But the editing wasn't a big deal. Now that I know how to do publishing, and I've worked for some self-publishing companies, and now that I know how to do it, that wasn't hard. I had an issue with my cover for the physical book, and I hired a guy on Fiverr to fix it for $10. It's really a pretty easy process. Getting sales is a totally different thing. Nobody's making money with poker books right now. Al Schoonmaker's a good friend of mine, and he's published, 10 books or something. And he said he's just done publishing books because they don't make any money. This guy's a PhD from Berkeley who's been teaching poker psychology. He's the poker psychology guy for years, and nobody's buying his books because nobody's buying any books. I talked to Greg Raymer about the book, and because he came out with a book a little over a year ago, and his books aren't selling anywhere close to what he thought they would sell either. The market just isn't there anymore. Everybody already has a shelf full of poker books and thinks they're really good now. So.
And do you think that's something that's sort of spilling across all genres? Is it a poker problem? Is it just a people aren't reading books problem? In poker, is it because people are turning to more videos or something like that? Do you have any takes on that?
It's mostly a poker problem. The publishing world and the self-publishing world are both doing very well. Amazon will continue to squeeze money out of authors. In a number of markets, I had an erotica publishing company pay me to do some research for them recently, and that market on Amazon is a disaster. Like 3/4 of the things in any given subject are not related to that subject in any way. The books, they'll pack 4,000 pages into a book, and then I am absolutely certain there are farms of people or possibly programs whose job it is to just flip through pages on a Kindle, because there are absolutely unreadable books of 4,000 pages that have 0 reviews and are number 2 in the world in various erotica categories. And you see some of that in other categories as well. If you go look for cookbooks, and you find things that just aren't even related to cooking at all in the top 100 somehow. And they keep taking more money from authors. They've set it up in a way that you can't reach the top easily if you don't spend a lot of money on advertising, which means you have to be part of Kindle Unlimited to get to the top 100. And if you're part of Kindle Unlimited, you're making them a bunch of money, and you're exclusive. You have to be exclusive to Amazon. So basically, the biggest market in the world, if you want to have a bestseller there, you have to be exclusive to that market. And as more and more people are exclusive to that market, Amazon has to pay less and less because you have to be with us, so we don't have to pay you much. So, and they don't care. That Kindle Unlimited pool, they just take a chunk of it. They don't care whether it's going to me because people are actually reading my book, or whether it's going to the guy who wrote the 4,000-page book that's just being flipped through by a computer to get those page reads. So something will break on that eventually. There's a lot going on there, but Amazon may not care for a long time. And Amazon is the self-publishing world right now. I mean, I don't love them for publishing, but they were the only reasonable option for doing what I did. And the Kindle Unlimited page reads are like 25% of my income probably, and I expected them to actually be more. So I really can't go wide with it because I'm not going to get 25% more sales on other markets. People are all on Amazon. So, but the traditional publishing world has survived a lot better than I think we expected. They've adapted, and they're smart people. The New York publishers have changed some of the way they do things. They've cut their expenses a lot. They don't have big offices in Manhattan anymore. Their editors work from home and work remote from other places in the country where they don't have to pay them $150,000 a year. If you got an editor in Nebraska, you can pay him $60,000 a year and he lives very well. If he's in Manhattan, if you pay him $60,000, he has to live in his car. So they've definitely adapted, and people are reading a ton of books still. The biggest market right now is romance, and there are more romance novels selling now than any genre has ever sold in history. And a ton of other genre, thrillers and sci-fi, and a bunch of stuff is doing really well.
Well, it makes sense. People are home, they're not, I know I'm a big audiobooks podcast listener, and my commute has basically dropped off since February 2020. So I am so far behind. Like I'm going to have to give up on a ton of the stuff that I claimed that I used to listen to regularly. And I'm sure people are picking that up at home with books, reading, like that. I remember when I used to read. That sounds like fun. Get back into that.
Did you forget how?
Maybe a little. I think my reading comprehension is still slightly above my audio cue skills, so we'll see.
You can find tons of tutorials on YouTube about.
It's A, B, and then C, right? We're getting D and E up in Canada soon, but you can spell most of Canada with just C and A, so it's.
Perfect.
Yeah, no, we're really looking forward to that.
Well, if will you still read it when you sound the word out? Will you still read it as process?
Probably. So before we get into this border battle and start ripping each other to shreds, so what's next for you then, Chris? What? Now that this book is out there, and
I have no idea. I'm gonna drink by the pool for a while.
Nice, yes, sir.
I have one novel drafted and another one in process. Really, I have two almost drafted and another one that I'm working on. I'm editing and compiling an anthology with, I don't know if I'm supposed to say who the names are anyway.
Breaking news.
But a bunch of famous fantasy and sci-fi authors, including one who used to play professional sports in Minnesota, and we're creating an anthology of stories about the day that the dragons came back. And so I'm editing a bunch of that stuff this week. Really trying to get my foot in the door as a fiction writer. I've got a sitcom pilot that I've written. I've got all kinds of things going on, and I really just want to be a fiction writer. So we'll see how long that takes to happen.
Well, that's exciting. I was a huge fantasy and science fiction nerd growing up, and I know Rob also is a big fantasy fan. So I can't wait to hear how that develops, and I'm excited to see how that grows. So
either of you guys know of Stephen Brust?
Brust? I don't.
I do not.
Oh man, here I thought we were covering
Brust, Stephen Brust.
All right, I'm gonna look that up.
Steve is a good friend of mine for a long time, and he's the guy that I'm doing the anthology with the dragons.
Oh.
And we're also talking about starting a book together here pretty soon. Steve is a best-selling fantasy sci-fi author from Minnesota who lives in Minneapolis, and is a poker player. And we've been trading writing lessons for poker lessons for 15 years at least now. So his poker game has improved some, and my writing has improved a lot. I think he's a better teacher than I am.
Wow.
Or he's a worse student than I am. One of the two.
Well, we're going to have you back on for that because I am just personally, I'm super excited about that whole concept. So I can't wait to pick your brain about what that looks like and the role that science fiction and fantasy writing has taken to bring you to that. So we won't do it today, but so we'll get a date together so you can save the date because I can't wait to unpack that.
Yeah.
Well, so where can people reach you? Where can they reach you on Twitter? How do you like people to get in touch? And
Twitter's as easy as anything, at FoxPokerFox on Twitter or blindstraddle@gmail.com. those are the spots. I sold my blog. Somebody offered me too much money for the domain, so
Can't
I
argue
sold
with
it.
that.
I haven't gotten around to putting another one together yet. That's kind of been my experience with owning domain names and developing websites, is that eventually someone offers you too much money for them. And
I think you're doing it right then. I've heard other people that the termination point is slightly different from yours, but that sounds like a good way to do it.
well, the key is to just keep them until someone does. There are
Right.
some, I used to own a lot of domains. Now I just own a few, but if you just have some use for them eventually, especially the more you like them, the more someone will be likely to buy them, so you can't have them anymore.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, well, we're going to continue on talking about the website and some upcoming events, so feel free to stick around for that, but you're welcome to jump off here. And thank you so much for coming and sharing this time with us, Chris. I'm looking forward to our next one.
I will stick around and listen.
Oh, perfect. All right.
Thanks a lot, Fox, and I'm really looking forward to the book study that we're about to get into with your book. I think it's going to lead us down a lot of what we call rabbit holes as we start discussing all of the different ways that we can improve our short stack game. So
thanks for having me. I look forward to doing a little Q&A once it's done.
Yeah, that's be great.
I was part of your Crazy Like a Fox, so I'm really, really interested in seeing how much of that you wanted to put into a book you got to. So.
Definitely some of it. Yeah, you'll definitely recognize some things from that.
Well, so a few things that are coming up. We talked about starting the course at rec.poker. We're actually going to, it's the same idea, but we're calling it the Focus. Ed Miller, call off your dogs. Ed Miller's lawyers have been beating down the door. We get it, okay? You're a big guy, fine. So we're going to, no, just kidding, of course. Ed's a perfect gentleman. I doubt we're even on his radar for that. But we thought out of an abundance of caution and respect, we would switch it to the Focus. And we will be focusing on different things from time to time. But on the second Wednesday of every month now, you can premium members can come out and focus with us on a different part of poker. We're starting at the beginning with pre-flop ranges, everything to do with opening ranges, calling ranges, 3-bet ranges, even limping ranges. So Chris is going to be leading that, and I'm looking forward to participating in that myself because I'm a range nerd. And I know that Chris Wallace agrees how important those ranges are. And if you do want to check out that Red Chip course that they're offering on Chris's new book, go to rec.poker/resources, and you can find a link there to connect through to the wonderful offerings at Red Chip. And they know what they're doing there. And James is a friend of the show here, so we're not going to lead you astray. You can go take advantage of that. Well, I think, John, why don't you take us into some recent home game results?
That sounds good. Well, of course, we just had our No Limit Hold'em series. That's the one that we keep the points for the year. And Marble Jams, Jeffrey Kupferberg won his very first No Limit Hold'em series on October 7th.
Way to go. I see Marbles Jam in there all the time, so I'm glad he got a chance to pull one out. And one of the monthlies, that's a big one.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And then we have, for our nightlies, we had Cows 2902, Kurt won his first nightly. J-Box 71, John Bachhuber won his second nightly. Gopher Boy TJM, Taylor Moss won his third nightly. And that one was when he was recording it for Twitch.
Oh, yeah.
I believe that you can watch that Twitch replay. I think he's posted that somewhere. So if you're interested, you could watch him go from beginning to end and see how he actually won that one. Then on October 9th, we had Megra 44, Doug Drabeck won an impressive 8th nightly series. On October 10th, Eric Anderson, Anderson 85, won his 4th nightly series.
Nice, Eric. Way to go.
And on October 11th, Gloves 1010, Colin Anderson won his 5th nightly series.
5, man. Some of these guys are really killing it here. 4 and 5, that's impressive stuff.
Absolutely. And of course, we had 2 international series tournaments this week. Oslo Burger, Trond Vidar Stensby won his 2nd international series.
Nice.
And just because he has not won enough, Doug Drabeck Megara 44 won his first international series.
I knew it was going to be a problem when we said that you didn't have to be an international player to play in the international series. It's true, you can play even if you're from the US of A, and you do get a ticket to that Tournament of Champions that month, so I can see why they're in there. Good for Tron Vidar, who's been a champion in the international series as well. That's great. So what else is coming on down the pike? Anybody? I know, Rob, we've got the new short stack Ninja. Is it November 4th, the first Wednesday in November?
Should be the first Wednesday of November, yes.
That's going to be great, and we'll just take our time with that. I think it's built for rabbit holes, like you said, sir. So I think there's no, even though it's a short book, it won't surprise me if we take some time getting through it.
Yeah, it might take us to the end of the year to get through it, because we do have a propensity to go down a few rabbit holes.
I've heard that about this crew. Anybody else? I know, Andrew, we're switching our format from having these live learning with partners every 2 weeks to having, you've put together kind of a curriculum of some of these clips that we'll be sharing every week. And if people are really enjoying that, reach out to Andrew on Twitter and let him know, or DM him in the site, and we can set up maybe like a monthly live opportunity for people to look behind the counter and stuff like that, which could be fun. Sorry,
yeah,
Chris.
just go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
No,
you can either get a hold of me at Andrew on the RecPoker forum, rec.poker forums, or you can find me at feist.andrew412 on Twitter. So that way you can, if you want to see anything extra, anything more, like we want to set something up where people want to see something on some of the sites of the affiliates we work with, just hit me up, let me know. Otherwise, yeah, once a week we are releasing the same kind of content. It's good stuff. Take a peek at it.
And I'll just add in Memberland, we're still going through our October seminar, which is multi-way, and then we're gearing up for our November one, which is all about mental game. And I'm really excited for that. I think it's going to be a different format than something we've done before, but something that a lot of people have asked about, and I think it should be a good topic for conversation.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. Well, if no one else has anything else to add, I'm going to take advantage of Steve's not being here to thank Sean and Don for these lovely poker-themed plates that I've got up behind me, a late birthday present. That's right. If you send me free stuff, we're going to shout it out on the podcast. And other than that, I'd like to thank Running Aces, Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino. I'd like to thank Website Amp, Learn Pro Poker, Andrew Feist, Chris Jones, Rob Washam, John Somsky, and Chris Fox Wallace. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.